Hey, Rocketeers, this is Keith Seeley, and you know what time it is.
We're divided on everything, and we're choosing sides. We don't even give a damn that we live a lie. We're programming everything to tell me how to think, and the shit they're handing me still has the same old stink. We go on, wasting our lives. I'd rather die with nothing, man, than ever be a slave. But when they're taking everything, the freedom is the grave. We seem to give it all away without a second glance. Instead of pulling the curtain back to see the hands that make the puppet dance, we go on, wasting our lives. We go on, wasting our lives. Now it seems we can't remember who we are or where we came from. Whoa. And I will offer up my hand to say that I'm not done. We go on, wasting our lives. 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 We go on.
Hey, Rocketeers. That was a track from Chris Kirby Band, new CD, Whistling Past the Graveyard. That track was called Wasted. And I want to thank everybody for turning on and tuning in tonight to the Rocket Launch Show. Don't forget, coming immediately after the Rocket Launch Show will be Kevin and Joey. I want to welcome everybody, and I want to introduce to everybody Mr. Keith Seeley. Let's give him a big hand. Yeah, all right. So, Keith, you were in the studio today.
Sure was. First time.
Yeah, did you have fun?
I had an absolute blast. I can't think of anything nicer to say than if you're going to get something recorded, Digital Street Radio is the place to go.
Well, we appreciate that. And that would be Digital Street Studio. Here, that's okay. Here at the radio, we only do the banter, man.
Gotcha.
But you came in with 4 tracks, and I got to tell you, man, you nailed it. You nailed it. For being the first time in the studio, you nailed it.
Well, it was, quite honestly, without your support and help, it's what got me in here to the studio. Totally excited. Love it.
Yeah, but you told me a story a little while ago. How long ago was it when you first started playing guitar, or how did that come about?
Well, it came about coming here and listening to a band and dancing and saying, God, I wish I could play guitar like that gentleman up there.
Who were you talking?
And we're talking about your own Joey Foss.
Oh, well, there you go. See?
Yep.
Imagine that.
Well, next thing I knew, I had a first guitar lesson with him at 2:00 on a Thursday. Matter of fact, the 8th month of 08.
Now, had you played guitar before that?
Open chords, that was it.
Yeah.
And only a few of those.
So what was the first lesson like?
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Terribly nerve-wracking, but he made it very clear in a very short period of time to just go ahead, be yourself,
right,
and have fun with this.
Well, Joey's so cool anyway, man.
Oh, he was. I mean, after a couple of lessons, you want to, please your sensei,
right,
so to speak. And so,
again, I want to remind all the Rocketeers, the reason I have an occasional live guest, last week we had Chatty Cooper, but, since you were in the studio and, I figured I'd get you in here and, we just do a little banter back and forth. But the reason I have live guests is because, you're an original artist. I mean, you do play some cover stuff, but you write your own songs. So with that in mind, when you started taking lessons with Joey, were you writing songs at that time?
No, I wasn't, because I didn't have a perception of chord progressions. Mm-hmm. What chords go good with what chords?
Right. Was that a thought in your mind?
Oh, absolutely.
That eventually you would write your own songs?
If anybody tells you any different, I think they would lie to you about other things. Because quite honestly, you learn play the chords and what goes good together. Next thing you know, you're writing some lyrics.
Yeah.
It just kind of went hand in hand.
So how long after that first lesson, do you think it was when you wrote your first song?
I would honestly say I studied for a year with him, mm-hmm. actually a little over a year, mm-hmm. and then played by myself in my basement. And then during that time, stuff started to evolve.
Right.
And the next thing I knew, maybe 2 years, I probably wrote the first song.
Very cool. Very cool.
And
we've been tracking a couple of these original songs, and hopefully once they're done, you'll let us play them here on Digital Street Radio.
It'd be an absolute privilege.
Yeah, man.
It'd be a privilege.
So listen, Rocketeers, tonight my feature artist is Chris Kirby, and of course he's released a CD by the Chris Kirby Band. It's called Whistling Past the Graveyard. It features Kevin on electric guitar and mandolin, Nate Grauer on fiddle, Rachel Flora on backing vocals, yours truly on bass, Tony Robinson, the great Tony Robinson on drums. I tell you, man, he's great. Chris Foltz played some percussion. Then we have the River Singers, which consisted of Laura Lee Kirby, Caitlin Kirby, Jason Bakley, Dennis Lauch, Ken Richter. You know Ken, don't you? Ken Richter? That name sounds awful familiar. David Richter and Sandra Satterfield, and, of course, Blake Brandt. So we're going to get to another track by Chris, and we'll be right back, Rocketeers.
Fiery damnation is coming for me, and I cannot witness what I cannot read. If I cannot witness, then I cannot heed. Oh, that's just the sound of your lies. 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 Yeah. Prophets, I've heard all the fools. They're one and the same when they're breaking the rules. Thou art not equal, thou havest no grace. When you take from the plate with that smile on your face. Oh, that's just the sound of your lies. Oh, that's just the sound of your lies. Oh, that's just the sound of your lies. Oh, that's just the sound of your lies.
right, we're back, and that was a track called The Sound from the Chris Kirby Band and Chris Kirby's new CD, Whistling Past the Graveyard. And I forgot to mention, one of the musicians on there was our good friend Jim McGiffin. He played some arco bass on Whistling Past the Graveyard, which will be the final track tonight. Now, Keith, before I get back to you, I want to remind everybody out there that if you know an original artist or you are an original artist and you'd like your music to be heard on Digital Street Radio or the Rock and Launch Show, just email us at digitalstreetstudio@gmail.com, and we'll get you the paperwork and fill you in on how that's to happen. So, Keith, you started taking guitar lessons. You actually start playing much, much better, obviously. And
hopefully.
Do you get to play in a band?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did. Yeah, for about 1 year. Poor guys had to go through the pain of watching me to learn the riffs and actually play guitar in a band environment.
Yeah.
Yep. It's cool. It was
now,
great.
So that leads me to my next question. Were you playing any originals?
Actually, we played at a retirement party. The one live gig that we had, it was a retirement party, and yes, I played a couple of my originals, 2 of them.
And
Matter of fact, we tracked them today.
Wow. And see, I hate to admit this, but I perform with the movies occasionally. And when we started that band in the early 80s, we had originals. We actually pressed a 45. And we didn't have a mindset of we can't do this. We just did it, because we were playing a different kind of genre of music. We were doing like 60s stuff, but pumped up, and not quite punk, but it was pumped up. So we could squeeze our originals in there. And with the fact that we had the 45, voila, poof, success. But in the later years, and in a lot of cover bands, I've talked about this many times before, when you're out there playing and it's not a normal original venue, it's very difficult. Or there's this stigma of you can't play original music.
People.
So what you did, and Junior's told me this before too, with his solo act, that he squeezes in his original music. He doesn't say it. First of all, don't set yourself up for failure and say, "Hey, I'd like to play you an original," because now people's, if they're not used to that, their antennas are up and they're already saying, "What? I want to hear Sweet Home Alabama." Or whatever,
Exactly.
So, you fighting with that all the time. So, at this gig, did you have an issue with that?
Not at all, because we had a set list.
Right.
We followed that set list.
Right.
They didn't know I wrote that song
Right.
until after it was done. Actually, we were all done. And people said, geez, you guys sounded great, and all
Right.
that good thing. And I said, well, I did a couple originals. Those were your songs?
And see, that's the reward right there.
It sure was.
Don't you don't ask them. You don't set yourself up. If you don't know the answer to the question, don't ask it.
I thought it was easier. I thought it was easier to ask for forgiveness than it was permission.
There you go. Exactly. That's good advice. And where I'm going with this is, I want the original artists that we deal with to understand that their music is their music, and it is good. It's not a matter of whether it's liked or not. That's a matter of opinion. If you don't like rap and you write rap songs, then don't play it for the rock and rollers. If you write rock, and you write rock songs, don't play it for the rap guys. Now, me myself, I'll listen to anything. I think you've mentioned before you're the same way.
I've listened to just about everything.
Yeah.
There's some I like, obviously, more than others. But
Right. I mean, like AC/DC, for example.
Oh, great.
Their hits, man, I'm like, I want to get up and I don't dance, but I want to get up and dance, But then, am I going to run out and buy their album just because of that one song? No.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it's not good. It's just my preference. So, you come in the studio today. What was your first experience, man? What are you thinking?
I don't know where to begin, because I didn't have any perception about what this process was going to be. And through your guidance and understanding and helpfulness, it's just absolutely super.
I think you did very well.
I'll admit here on Radio Live that I had tears in my eyes when I heard the song. the double tracking vocals. I
Well-
just couldn't believe that here I am.
I told you before, you're an artist,
Thank you.
and that's the way it works. So listen, Rocketeers, tonight we're featuring the Chris Kirby Band and the CD from Chris Kirby, Whistling Past the Graveyard. We're going to play 2 tracks in a row, and then we're going to come back and probably sign off. And don't forget, Rocketeers, following the Rocket Launch Show, none other than Kevin and Joey and the Cover Bridge Music Hour. Here's Chris Kirby and one of my favorite tracks off this CD, I'll Come Running, and that'll be followed up by the title track, Whistling Past the Graveyard. And we'll be back, Rocketeers.
I'll come running, I'll come running back for more, till I'm at your door. I'll come running, I'll come running. I'll come running, I'll come running down your street, till I'm at your feet. I'll come running, I'll come running. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low. Now I found you, girl, I'll never let you go. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low. Now that I found you, girl, I'll never let you go. I'll come running, I'll come running back for more, till I'm at your door. I'll come running, I'll come running. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low. Now that I found you, girl, I'll never let you go. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low. Now that I found you, girl, I'll never let you go. I'll come running, I'll come running back for more, till I'm at your door. I'll come running, I'll come running. I'll come running, 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 I'll come running. I'll come running, 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 I'll come running. We're coming all alone. I think it's gonna be the way we leave. try to be strong, but that will remain to be seen. We say we don't wanna go, we say we can't wait to leave, depending on the life you led, or the one that pulled you around. Right along on the road from the cradle to the grave, and when it all is done, I hope there's something left that can be saved. We say we don't wanna go, say we can't wait to leave, depending on the heights you've gone, or the depths that pulled you down. From the cradle to the grave, we try to be strong, but that will remain to be seen.
And of course, we're back. I've got Keith Seeley guest hosting with me tonight. That was 2 tracks from the Chris Kirby Band, Chris Kirby's new CD, Whistling Past the Graveyard. I want to thank him for sending us that CD. And in the near future, I'm going to feature the next half of that CD, maybe next week or the week after. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at the schedule and see how we can squeeze that in. I want to thank Keith for sticking around after his big day at the studio.
I want to thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, man. I had a blast. And, people, it's hard for me to say I'm going to work. I have to say I'm going to the studio or I'm going to track because there is absolutely no way I can call this work. It is not work. I mean, I am so blessed that, I get to do what I do.
Nothing better than doing what you love to do.
Oh, my God. You think.
Oh, blessed.
So listen, once again, I want to remind everybody, if you have original music or you know a musician that performs their own original music and you want to be heard here on Digital Street Radio, just email us at digitalstreetstudio@gmail.com. So Keith, before we go, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I can think of 3 things right off the top of my head without having to think making it too difficult. First, I'd like to thank my wife, Terry. Through her love, got me my first lesson with Joey Focusin, which led to where I'm at right now. And, of course, Joey Focusin himself, very patient man, got me through a lot of lessons, taught me so much. got me loving music again. And
Before you go to the last one, you mentioned earlier he taught you theory,
yes, he did.
which, that's unheard of from a guitar teacher.
Why these fit together and
Right.
all that concepts
Helps make it sense, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And then playing chords, and he goes, now you know why you wanted to learn that chord.
There you go.
When you find it in a song.
Joey
And
is
there it
the
was.
hardest working man in showbiz.
He
let me
sure
tell you.
is. I support him every chance I get.
Yep.
And of course, third, I'd like to thank Central Delaware Blues Society, Craig Caulfield, obviously, for his little deal he has going over there on every Thursday night. It's live jam. You can get up and jam. And really, that's where I played first in front of people. Live. And get over that nervousness. And,
Right.
you never really get over it. You learn to deal with it a little bit.
Listen, it's
a blast.
I'm 58 years old, and I've been playing professionally since I was 12 years old, and I still hide behind a microphone.
And I don't think I'd ever really want that to go away.
No.
I don't think I would.
It's all part of the gig, man.
Yeah. Again, I'd like to thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It's always my pleasure. Listen, it's all about the original music and our artist. Now, listen, Rocketeers, I want to remind everybody, stick around. Coming up next is Kevin and Joey for the Cover Bridge Music Hour. And listen, Rocketeers, I appreciate everybody for turning on and tuning in tonight to the Rocket Launch Show and Digital Street Radio. I want to thank Chris Kirby Band and Chris Kirby for sending us his CD. And I want to thank Keith Seeley, my guest tonight, for sticking around. I had a blast, Keith. And listen, Rocketeers, don't forget, please be kind to our creatures and fellow human beings. Peace.